Movement forward at the State House to allow safe injection sites here in the Bay State.
It's a controversial issue that passed in the Senate with just hours to go in the session, but still faces objection in the House. Western Mass News reporter Reagan Stoddard joins us live in studio after getting answers on the impact of legislation like this.
Abby and Chris, Tapestry Health is a harm reduction organization based in Western Massachusetts. They tell me that as of right now, they can only provide so many services to those struggling with addiction, and that these safe injection sites would allow them to fully help those coming to their facilities.
The passing of an overdose prevention centers would allow agencies, places such as Tapestry, to provide everything to the person who uses drugs and the person in need.
Tapestry Health in Western Mass supports legislation to allow safe injection sites in Massachusetts. Tapestry's health director for harm reduction services, Liz Wynot, tells Western Mass News they provided services for more than 10,000 people struggling with addiction last year, and supervised injection sites can ultimately prevent many overdose deaths.
A common thing for people who are using substances like heroin is isolation, and isolation causes people to use alone, and most overdose deaths happen when the person is using alone.
And she tells us preventing deaths in drug users can allow for further rehabilitation and prevent trauma to those involved.
If the person doesn't survive, then there's no chance of receiving further services. And then also preventing the death. It saves the lives of the individual, and then it also prevents incredible trauma for families and for the community.
During the Senate debate on safe injection sites on Tuesday, State Senator John Vilas shared his personal story.
As many folks in this room know, I am a person who has struggled enormously with addiction. I am a person who struggled enormously.
He says this legislation becoming law is vital to saving lives.
But today we take up a bill that has something known as harm reduction in it. Harm reduction, as far as I'm concerned, is simple. It's keeping people alive.
Senator Vilas says it's simple.
You can't treat someone who is dead.
The bill did pass in the Senate, but because it differs from the opioid legislation that passed in the House, a conference committee will now work on a compromise bill. But the current session ends tonight at midnight, and time is running out. Reporting live in studio, Reagan Stoddard, Western Mass News.
Reagan, thank you.